In the past, we have talked about truth and the various senses in which something can be true. Similarly, things can be false on a variety of levels. In this episode, we will be talking about falsehoods, lies, and damn lies on this episode of Ancient Egypt and the Bible. There are a variety of lies and falsehoods, and in this episode, we are just going to skim the surface on the vast topic of falsehood. There is a specialty of philosophy devoted to falsehood and deception. But like most of the videos on this channel, we are just scratching the surface of the topic without all the exceptions and nuances to give you a broad foundation to explore this topic further. First, let's begin with the notion of falsehood. Think of falsehood as the broadest category of things that are not true. Philosophers refer to the sense of truthfulness as veridicality. Something that is veridical is said to be true, that is, corresponding to reality. Something that is not veridical is said to be false and does not correspond to reality. Now, we are going to begin with a lie. I'm not going to tell you a lie, I'm going to define a lie. A lie is a falsehood where the statement is intended to deceive. St. Augustine noted that there is a difference between those who tell a lie and a liar. Social liars, liars who tell falsehoods to deceive for personal reasons, that is, those knowingly telling lies to avoid inconvenience, guilt, or discomfort. For example, quote, "That's not my big screen TV, officer. I'm holding it for my cousin," end quote. Those kind of liars are a lot more common than intellectual liars. That is, those knowingly telling falsehoods because they take pleasure in distorting the truth. That said, not all falsehoods are lies, but all lies are falsehoods. Similarly, all liars tell lies, but not everyone who tells lies is a liar. To be a liar, one must know the falsehoods being told are untrue, and not everyone who tells lies knows they are telling lies. This is where we introduce the concept of confabulation. A confabulator is a person who says things that are not true, but thinks what is being said is true. Now, there are several ways one can become a confabulator. One way is through cultural wisdom. Cultural wisdom is when one accepts an unsubstantiated generality that comes out of culture, ethnicity, or nationality. For example, the idea that, quote, "a chill causes a cold," end quote, is cultural wisdom that is common to North Americans. Another way one can become a confabulator is through tribal knowledge. Tribal knowledge is a set of ideas that is accepted as a result of being part of a social circle. That social circle could be religious, educational, association with a charismatic leader, or even a common interest. Most of us, sometime in our lives, will succumb to the problem of tribal knowledge. Often, a teacher will teach something which is in fact untrue, and the students will repeat what they were taught as though it was absolute fact. And this can happen all the way down from kindergarten to the highest levels of doctoral studies. We often repeat ideas we are taught without reflecting upon whether those ideas are actually true. Many of the followers of Ron Wyatt are confabulators as a result of tribal knowledge. Another kind of confabulation results from incompetence or unrecognized bias. This takes place when a person has a selective bias and cherry picks the knowledge that resonates with them. This often happens in echo chambers where one is not aware of any potential bias or thinks they have no bias. This is often said to be a problem of the Baconian fallacy. The Baconian fallacy is the idea that one can operate without the aid of preconceived questions, hypotheses, ideas, assumptions, theories, biases, or general presumptions of any kind. As such, those who hold to the Baconian fallacy think that others are biased, but they themselves have no bias because they are of a particular philosophy or set of ideas. You see this frequently among atheists who think they have no bias because they don't hold to a faith proposition, while at the same time cherry picking the data they like in favor of their underlying presuppositions. A recent example of this is when Kip Davis claimed that the consensus scholarship does not consider the Amurru to be Amorites. That is objectively wrong. But what Kip did was cherry pick a speculation. That is, some scholars have speculated whether the Amurru diverged far enough from other Amorites to be considered a different ethnic group. Kip amplified that doubt into a statement of consensus. It's a composition fallacy as it doesn't actually reflect the consensus. Nevertheless, the problem with confabulation by incompetence is that it is difficult to discern from malfeasance. Incompetence and malfeasance are practically indistinguishable. In these situations, it is often most charitable to give the benefit of the doubt as incompetence, that is, incorrect and sloppy, as opposed to assuming the speaker knows they are not telling the truth and are intentionally telling falsehoods, which would make them a liar, that is, incorrect and dishonest. There is a fourth kind of confabulation that comes from mental illness, fanaticism, or delusion. In this case, those who are mentally ill cannot determine truth from falsehood. So they sometimes say things that are not true, but believe whatever they're saying is true. There's been many cases of people who think they are Napoleon. They're clearly not. Now, that covers liars and confabulators. But there's one other category of falsehood that needs to be mentioned. Harry Frankfurt also talks about something he calls bullshitting. Unlike the liar who knows what they are saying is false, and the confabulator who thinks what they're saying is true, the bullshitter doesn't know, doesn't want to know, or doesn't care about the veridicality of what they say. The bullshitter is not motivated by truth or falsehood, but is motivated by other things, like idol worship, stringing a lark, or selling books. The evidence is irrelevant for a bullshitter. They don't care about any evidence, even if it is contrary to their claims. And they will often pretend that contrary evidence doesn't exist. An example of a bullshitter is David Rohl. For more information about Rohl's views, please see the card above. Now, there's one subset of bullshitting worth mentioning, which is blarney. Unlike bullshitting, where the speaker doesn't care if what he says is true, but expects the hearer to receive the statements as true, blarney tells statements with the expectation that the hearer will be entertained by the statement, but will regard the claims as false. When a raconteur spins yarns about leprechauns, doing entertaining or funny anecdotes, there's no deception because the hearer expects the statements to be false. In conclusion, we have covered the various categories of falsehood: lies, confabulations, and bullshit. We hope you found this interesting and you learned something. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time on Ancient Egypt and the Bible.